Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this celebration of the life and work of Pauline Sasaki. We're really excited about it. I've got with me people presenters I'm sure you probably know. We've got Gabriella Poli all the way from Italy. Do you want to say hi?
Hi everybody.
And I've got Nicola Poli with me, or Nicola Ley, sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah. All the way from Bristol, right over the other side of the country. So do you want to say hi, Nicola?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, Nicola Ley these days, but Nicola Poli, some of you remember me as.
Okay, and we've got Dinah on the chat. Dinah's also been helping us research and put this course together. We've had a lot of fun so far meeting up. And so, yeah, just say hi. We've got 770 people signed up, which is wonderful. And I can see lots of familiar names in the chat.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So there we are. Let's start. We've got an introduction. I'll show you what we're going to do for this presentation as we go along. The basic theme, we thought we'd have an overall theme, which is bringing the body and the spirit together via touch, because that's what we felt was the core of Pauline's mission really in Shiatsu. So that's the overall theme of the five webinars. And just to warn you that later in this webinar, and generally we will be doing some practical work. So if you can move around, you might want to have a pen and paper ready for later on. And if you come next week, which we hope you do, then make sure you can move around if you'd like to take part of in the practical work. So yes, we've got Gabriella Poli, as I've was introduced. I've got Dinah on the chat. She's been helping us with all the research. We hope to have her on camera later on in the series. And then Nicola Ley and myself, we're the four presenters putting this together. Lee, sorry.
I'm with Key.
Lee, as in Lee, yeah, Key, sorry. There we are. Okay, so we've come up with 5 themes for the next 5 webinars. So this Tuesday, today, we're going to do a little bit about Pauline's background. We're going to look at the Masunaga system and kind of see where it got to when Pauline started to develop the post-Masunaga work. We're going to look at the functions of the meridians and how they fit into the Masunaga system and how they provide a link with Pauline's work. And we're going to finish off by looking at the way she approached the Hara palpation and how that differed with the Masunaga system. And we've got the practical for that for you to take part in. And then in the following weeks, we're going to look at contraction and expansion, alignment, peripheral vision, modeling and mindset, the two-handed technique, and going beyond Kyo and Jitsu. That's next week. And then later on, we're going to look at how she understood the energetic bodies. That's the personal body, the etheric body, and the astral body. We'll go in deeper to the meridians as light, chakras and the meridians, the earth and solar star chakras, and the rights of the chakras in week 4. And then 5, we're probably going to do the pranic tube and give you an overview of some of the more advanced multidimensional work that Pauline experimented with and worked with later on in her life. So that's the kind of plan. We do reserve the right to change anything though as we go along because we're not quite sure how it's going to move depending on your interests. Okay, fantastic. So here we go. I've already introduced the presenters. I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction to Pauline. We'll have a look at the Masunaga system, find out how familiar you are with it. And then we're going to do a little bit of practical experimenting with the meridian expressions. We'll look at how Pauline worked with Kishi and what that meant to her, Shiatsu. And then we'll do a little bit of an experiment with the Hara palpation and see how you get on with that. So that's the plan for this evening. Okay, so first of all, we just thought we've got a nice big group. We're approaching 250 people, so that's wonderful. We thought we'd better find out how familiar you already are with Pauline's work, because that gives us an idea of where to pitch the next 5 weeks. Okay, so here's the poll. What is your level of the knowledge of Pauline Sasaki's work? Is it very good, good, a little, or I don't know her work? So let's see.
It's interesting, yeah.
Well, that's very interesting indeed, yeah. So actually we've got 69% of those tuning in only know a little or they don't know her work at all. So that's That's amazing. And only 8% seem very good. So we've got plenty of scope then. So thank you very much for signing up. We hope to give you an enjoyable and interesting 5 weeks. That's really interesting. Thank you. Okay, so here is Pauline Sasaki. Here's a picture. And I can't believe now that it's been 10 years since she passed away. It's just incredible to even think that it's been 10 whole years. I wondered if Gabriella and Nicola, whether you'd like to say anything about Pauline before I go through this slide.
Oh, yeah.
Shall I go? Yeah.
I was thinking this morning of all the things I'd like to say about Pauline, and I could probably just say 4 or 5 webinars about.
Yeah.
I first met her at Lamrim, and that's where the Shiatsu College got founded. And it was very dramatic when I was the model for Elise's treatment, and she slapped my back so hard, I jumped up and I was about to hit her, but I ran out the room and I ran all the way to the pub. But what she did is she changed my life. From that moment, I became a Shiatsu energy dedicated person. As soon as I got back to my job in London, I went part-time, and she just moved me like a train onto a different track. And it was like, I have to thank her forevermore for that. And
I can still remember that, Nicola. It was so funny, wasn't it? Because we were in this workshop, we were doing all this, like, this meridian here, this meridian is there, sort of thing. And I could just remember it now. We were all gathered round, and you were lying on your front, and she just took one look at you and went, and it went whack like that. And you just went, poof.
Yeah. It was so gallbladder jitsu. Sometimes gallbladder jitsu has to be addressed.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's just talk about matching the power of the imbalance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I also just want to mention being at lunch with you, Gabriella, and the phone, and it was Karin going, "Oh, I can't come to the workshop." And you're going, "Oh, what am I going to do? I've got one space." And I went, "Can I come?"
Sure.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for being at the right place at the right time.
I will never forget this. Was a lunch, and we were out in the terrace, and that was it. That was a great moment for both of us.
Yeah.
And
how about you, Gabriella? Have you got any real memories of?
Well, the first thing I have to say that I still miss her a lot. She was really my master. It was my reference point. And, you know, I met her in '89 in Munich, and I got fascinated by her because by her work, the way she was handling energy, and also by her eyes. Her eyes were incredible. And I mean, and she could, you know, she was looking at the person and said, "You see the meridian? It's not in the right place. Now I treated, you see, it went back to where it should go." And I said, "Oh my God." But then was when I decided that I wanted to study with her. And then I did not leave her. And it was through her that I also met you, Cliff, and I appreciated and got also enthusiastic about your work. And I just wanted also to say that I'm very grateful. I just want to thank you for this event, for this celebration, because as you said, Nicola, Pauline really made a precious contribution to our lives and to our Shiatsu, of course, but also to our lives. She really changed the course of our lives.
And hopefully what we share will help other people at least add some salt and pepper to their Shiatsu
I hope so, yeah. Make you think about your work. I mean, very briefly, I feel, you know, very lucky that I was apprenticed by Pauline, and the way it happened was I was way back in the 1980s, 1981, 1982, and I just loved Shiatsu, and I wanted to find the best teacher in the world, and I met someone who had actually studied all over the world in America. Harriet Geddes, her name was, and I asked her who she thought the best world's teacher was, you see. And she recommended Pauline, and I wrote to her back in the early 80s, and she wrote me a whole letter back, an airmail letter, you know, longhand, several pages. I can't believe it now. that we ever had the time to write things like that. And that's where I got in contact with her before she came to the Lamrim workshops, and then I went to those workshops with Nicola. And in fact, most of the people in the UK who run schools went to those workshops, and that's one of the reasons why the UK Shiatsu scene is so cohesive, because we all worked together way back in the beginning together. So that was my background. And then of course I went on to teach with her for 20 years, and we developed the Masunaga system over that time. Okay, so she was graduated by Masunaga. One of the unique things though was she also assisted Masunaga's workshops in the 1970s, the late 70s, and I've got all the notes from those as well hidden away in my filing cabinet here, which hopefully I'll be able to share some of them as we go through. She was at those workshops. They were massive workshops, 150 people, and that was when Masunaga really conveyed a lot of his work to the West. And Pauline told me that when she went to Japan, she felt that he gave more of his work to the New York workshops than he really taught in the Yokai. So she was in a really unique place to see his cutting edge work and also see what he was teaching in Japan. She also translated the book Zen Shiatsu. If you look inside, she gets a what's it called?
Credit.
Quote. Yeah, credit. That's right. A credit. She did it. Even though Ohashi's name is really big on the front, she actually did most of the work there, translating it. So she was really close to Masunaga like that. She also developed the curriculum for the Ohashi Institute and worked at the Ohashi Institute for several years. And this is a picture of her in her little bedroom office that she had, where I stayed when I was apprenticed with her. And I just managed to catch that photo of her one evening when she was working away in her office. Okay, so then, as you found out already from Gabriella and Nicola, and maybe you were there in some of those workshops as well, Pauline came over to Europe and became a major teacher with the European Shiatsu Institute. And that was one of the reasons why I went to Munich for that workshop that Gabriella talked about, and I assisted her in a lot of those workshops. And she was very influential in for a lot of people in Europe, really, her work. Certainly in the UK, we'd never had a teacher anywhere near who understood the Masunaga system like she did. Nowhere near. So a lot of it was us really learning from the real source material, and it was a very, very exciting time in the late 80s, early 90s. And the main thing, again, the theme of these 5 webinars, the main thing is she was always interested in developing Shiatsu all the time, trying to get the energetics or the spirit connection into the touch. And that was a theme that went on for decades in her work. Okay, so let's just have a little quick review of the Masunaga system and the most important parts of it. And then we can kind of trace them and see how they developed in Pauline's post-Masunaga work. So Masunaga developed his own form of Shiatsu at the Yokai school from the Namikoshi method. He brought in a lot of Chinese medicine back into Shiatsu. Yin and Yang in the form of Kyo and Jitsu is a very important and very famous part of his work. He also developed his own Hara diagnosis, which was based on traditional Hara diagnosis methods. And you can see him doing that exactly here, right in this picture here. He also is probably most famous for his extension of the meridians, which has been the bane of many second-year students' Shiatsu training when they realize, they just feel they've got to the end of learning the classical meridians, and then they suddenly get presented with the Masunaga chart and realize they've got another 12 meridians
everywhere
in the arms and the leg. But the interesting thing about that, as we'll see, I think in the next slide, here we are. Here's a picture of the meridians. The interesting thing about that, though, is that they take the functions they allow you to access the functions of the meridians in the whole body. And this was, again, a move towards a different approach to accessing the energetics of the meridians in the whole field. So the other things that Masunaga is probably not so well known for, but was a very important part of his work, which wasn't published in Zen Shiatsu so much, it was more in Zen Imagery Exercises. The other book that was published was the Meridian expressions. The Meridian expressions are really important because what they are is they are basically a kinesthetic experience of the functions of the meridians. So what we have, and we're going to try one a little bit later, we'll try doing some actual experiences ourselves in a moment. But what it did was it basically gave you, if you did the expression, it gave you a kinesthetic experience, a non-cognitive, non-theoretical understanding of the action of the meridians. And the interesting thing, sort of the beauty of it in a way, was that the meridian expressions condensed down the essence of the function of the Chinese medicine meridians, or Zhang Fu, into one expression. And that's culturally quite a characteristic of Japanese culture, is to take the Chinese knowledge and to bring it down into a kind of essence. Masunaga used those meridian expressions, and he associated them with physical and psychological associations, and you can see them in Zen Shiatsu, the little boxes with the associations in. And the other interesting thing about having all the meridians in the arms and the legs, in other words, having the meridians accessible in the whole body, is it takes you more towards a holographic model, which is something that Pauline definitely worked more towards through her life. And the essence of a holographic model is that basically you can access any of the energetic information anywhere in the body, or off the body, or away from the body. You know, it's a kind of non-spatial and non-temporal information field that we're accessing. And she would emphasize that all the way through, really, even from quite early on. And if you look back, as we're going to do in the next 5 Tuesdays, if you look back and you see the main trends and the main new techniques that she introduced in Shiatsu, you can see that they're all kind of leading in one direction, which is to get more of a concrete connection with those multidimensional or non-spatial, non-temporal information fields that we can experience if we approach the body and energy field in the right way. I hope this is okay. Do interrupt me if you don't agree with anything. I've got a very high level audience here that I realise that I'm working with. Have you got anything that you'd like to add to that, I wonder?
I think it's really important that what you just said, the moving towards working with the information that is multidimensional, that isn't temporal, the field. That whole thing, what you're just about to do, we're going to go into the expressions, that the expression that Masunaga managed to distill, Pauline took on to go, okay, the energy works like this.
Yeah, I think she went a step forward from what Masunaga did, because this idea of getting information not only from the body through the functions, but from the field directly. This is something we really experienced with her. And that's actually, I always question myself, how do I get information, from my fingers or from the space? And for me, it's from the space, through the fingers, but it's not directly from the fingers.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's it. And we'll find out more as we go through the different techniques, especially in the next few weeks. We'll find out how to actually practically do that. Okay, excellent. Okay, yeah, so I thought we could do some practical now. So if you've got some space, I've got some space behind me that I prepared earlier. I'm going to move back into it now. You might want to have some paper handy. I'm going to get you to do a couple of drawings of your experience, and I'm just going to turn this off so we get full screen. Yeah. Okay, so if you'd like to find some space, and what we're going to do is I'm going to pick 2 meridian expressions that I'm just going to make sure that everyone's mic's muted. Just going to hear some background noise there. That's it. Okay, yeah, I'm going to do a couple of exercises. I'm going to take you into the expressions. I'm going to expand slightly on the Masunaga simple expression by taking on a little journey that will enable you to experience the function of the meridians. Okay, so come with me on this journey, and and we'll see what we can experience together. Okay, so first of all, I'd just like you to imagine that you are walking along a road. Okay, and you can just walk on the spot. Okay, everything is relaxed. You're quite sure of where you're going. Just make sure your joints and your body are nice and relaxed. Okay, feeling quite happy. Everything's flowing nicely. Okay, and now we come to a junction. We've got two roads, one going to the left and one going to the right. Okay, so you can close your eyes if you like and imagine what's going to happen if you go down the left road and if you go down the right road. Okay, what I'd like you to do is imagine that down the left road there's something that you really don't want to do, or something that you don't, somewhere you don't want to go. Okay, and on the right side there's somewhere that you really do want to go to. Okay, you really want to go there. And what we're going to do is we're going to activate the Masunaga Meridian expression, and we're going to see what happens to our energy as we decide which way to turn between these two roads. Okay, so you might want to close your eyes, imagine the left road, imagine the right road. Okay, we're going to close our eyes and we're going to turn our whole body and imagine that we're looking to the left, down the left road. That's the one you really don't want to go down. Okay, so you're going to turn your body that way. Okay, and then we're going to come back to the center. And now think about the road on the right, the one you really do want to go down. And we're going to just turn our body and look down that right road. Okay, got it? So now, as we do that, I just want you to tune into your ki. That's your emotional, mental, spiritual level, and just see what happens to your ki field as we turn to where the direction we don't want to go, and then the direction we do want to go. You ready? So, turning to the left, just see what emotional, mental, and spiritual effects that have on you. And then turning to the right. Okay, very good. So now if we want to really feel the effects of that, we can turn our body down the left road, the one that we don't want to go down, and we can force ourselves to walk down that road that we really don't want to walk down. Just see what happens to your energy. Okay, had enough? Okay, so we're going to stop and we're going to turn around back down the direction we do want to go in. Okay, and now we're going to start walking again and see what happens to our energy. Okay, very good. Okay, and we're going to come back to the center. Okay, so this action of which way to turn is a meridian expression, Masunaga meridian expression for, I'm not going to tell you, but I'm sure you can guess which meridian it is. So if you want to take your pen and paper, okay, and we're going to just do a drawing, a simple drawing, and what I'm going to do is I've got divided it into two because we've got the second exercise coming up, okay, and we're going to do the first exercise. We've done the first exercise and we've got the left and the right roads like that. And if you want to just draw a picture of yourself in the middle like that, and then we can draw or write what happened to our energy when we move down the left and the right roads. Okay, so let's see if we can do that. Okay, So I'm going to just do that right now. I'm going to draw that. You can write in any emotional feelings that you have or mental feelings, any thoughts that came up. Okay, and this is which way to turn. Maybe certain parts of your body you felt when you went down the left and the right road. Okay, great. So that's the first drawing. And now we're going to go to the second meridian expression. Okay. And this one is a little bit different, very different, in fact. Okay. And it's called getting ready to run. So we can, again, elaborate on that. We can expand that idea out and get the energy, really get the energy into our energy field. Okay. By standing, closing our eyes, imagining a safe space in front of us, and imagining some kind of threat coming from behind, maybe a tiger running towards us from behind us, okay? So you've got your safe space, you've got your threat at the back of you, and you're standing, relaxing, tuning into your own energy field. Okay. So now, I want you to imagine that that tiger is getting closer and closer behind you. So you really want to get ready to run. So you can get ready to run in whichever way is good for you. Get into that position and then tune into your energy and see what's happening on a physical level, on an emotional level, a mental and a spiritual level in terms of getting that feeling of wanting to run towards that safe space. Okay, so let's just tune into that for a moment. Are you ready? The tiger's getting closer behind us. Getting closer. And we're getting ready to run. Getting ready. Are you ready? Okay, and now it's really getting close. And we're going to run. Okay, so we're going to run on the spot and see what happens to your energy as you're running towards that safe space. Okay, again, tuning into your energy. We go into the safe space, close the door, safe from the tiger, and we can relax. Okay, you feel your energy system calming down because you're in the safe space. Okay, excellent. So now let's draw that in the second box, just to remind ourselves and just to get a record of the experience. Okay, so we've got getting ready to run. Okay, very good. So you've got a record there of what it was like to get ready to run. Okay, so now I've got a question for you. Okay, This is just a simple check to see whether you can guess which meridians pairs we were working with there. Was it the kidney and bladder, lung and large intestine, the liver and gallbladder and the kidney and bladder, or the liver and gallbladder? Oh, I put it twice. Oops. Oh dear. Okay, we'll have to skip the second one. Okay, the first or the second one. In fact, what I can do, hang on a minute, is I can redo the poll. Okay, so which meridian pairs did we work with? Okay, and option 1 is kidney and bladder, lung, large intestine. Option 2 is liver, gallbladder, kidney and bladder. Okay, I'm going to put one option in, which is liver, gallbladder, and heart and small intestine. Okay, here we go. So yeah, just see if you can tell which one do you think it is that we just worked on. Okay, interesting. Okay, just generally having a quick check to see, again, if you're not familiar with Masunaga's work. Okay, most of you did got the correct answer there, which was it was liver and gallbladder and kidney and bladder. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at the functions of the meridians. Okay, the next thing I would like to ask you is this. When we did the expressions, did you feel the whole expression in a small part of your body? Did you feel it down the channel, or did you feel it all through your energy, or other? That's the next question I'd like to ask you. Where did you experience the expressions? Interesting. Okay, there we are. Fantastic. Thank you very much for engaging with the polls there. We've got a really good response rate here. Anyone else like to vote? Okay, so interesting. Most of you, like over 3/4 of you, felt it all through your energy. Okay, and of course, depends entirely on how your energy is working, whether you will feel it in a small part of your body or all over. But the main idea of it, if you experience it all through your body, that gives you more of a holographic idea of the energy of the meridians. So we just picked 2. I'd just like to mention this. This is actually taken directly from one of Pauline's notes on the whiteboard, and when we were doing workshops with her. And this is one of the main things that she came up with, is the idea that any healing system has 4 components. It has an overall philosophy, it has a diagnosis, a treatment, and a theory system. And so what she taught us was the most important thing is not what these components exactly are, but whether they fit together to make a coherent system. In other words, each of the components of the system have to reflect back to your philosophy. And that was one of the things she often used to emphasize with us, like, what is your philosophy? What are you doing when you do Shiatsu? What is your core purpose in doing it? Now, if we have a system that has different vibrational levels, different functions that resonate on different levels. For example, in Chinese medicine, we have the Hun, which is a spiritual level of the liver, for example, and we have the Zi, which is the spiritual level of the kidneys. Then in order for that to fit with the diagnosis and the treatment system and the overall philosophy, what we need an actual diagnosis system and a treatment system that reflects our ability to connect with that spiritual level. And so the whole kind of idea is to have a way of experiencing the theory that lets us access those levels within the kind of conceptual framework. Okay, so liver and gallbladder the Masunaga expression is which way to turn, and you'll see the diagram as being like this, which way to turn, okay? We have just experienced it as an expression, and it definitely resonates on different levels. You may have felt it more on the physical level. In other words, you may have felt tighter when you went to the left down the left road. You might have felt tightness in your body, an obstruction in the free flow of the energy. You may have felt like a kind of anger, maybe frustration at having to be forced. That guy Cliff made me walk down that left road. You'd probably be thinking. So you probably you could be feeling like angry and irritated. Your mind really doesn't want to go down there. You're trying to think of a different way of how you can get there, decision making. And on a spiritual level, maybe that's not your path in life. Maybe that's not the direction that you want to go to in your life. And that action of which way to turn resonates on all of those different vibrational levels. Okay, and I found that little graphic there. There's a kind of like a abstract feeling of energy turning from one way to the other. Okay, and we've got the getting ready to run expression. So we created a threat behind us that allowed us to go into a safe space. So that activated the kidney and bladder energy, okay? That expression is Masunaga's interpretation of that kidney energy bringing us forwards. You may have experienced it on a physical level. You may have experienced it in your bones, in your joints, maybe in your spine, maybe your neck, your nervous system. You may have experienced it on an emotional level, like fear of the tiger coming up behind you and courage to move forwards. Maybe you used your mind, focusing your mind. The quality of the thought, the focus is related to the kidney and bladder channels through the nervous system. But maybe also you felt it on a spiritual level, that Z, that determination, that will, I will survive, I'm going to survive. And that feeling of impetus is exactly the same action taken up onto the spiritual level. So you see how they're so clever. The expressions are so well thought out. And of course, there are some more. There's one for each of the pairs of each of the meridians, but we haven't got time to go through them in this particular webinar. But you can experience all of those. And I'm sure we can put them onto the online course that we work on from this webinar series. Okay, excellent. So we've reviewed the Masunaga system, and we've looked at Pauline's introduction to Shiatsu and her early contributions and her training. So the next thing is what happened when she started to reach the edge, or the edge of the explanations that the Zen Shiatsu system, Masunaga Shiatsu, could give her in terms of what was happening. I know for a fact that she was doing a lot of Shiatsu. She was teaching at the Ahashi school. She was doing hundreds and hundreds of treatments. In fact, she was still doing 5 days a week of treatments when I was with her. So she's done a lot of treatments, and she's always trying to figure out what is her philosophy, what is she feeling when she's diagnosing, what is she doing when she's treating, and how can she explain it? And there became a point where she couldn't explain what was happening to her in the framework of Zen Shiatsu. And that's when she searched for another teacher, and she apprenticed with Kishi in Paris. And she learned a lot about the higher energy work, higher energy vibrational work from him. And then she put that back into the Shiatsu method that she developed. And so really her work from those two main teachers, she also had other teachers later on, but certainly her Shiatsu work from the 80s and 90s and going into the 2000s was really a combination of those two main teachers. Okay, so I've got another poll now, which is to find out what your level of knowledge of Kishi's work is. Okay, so let's find out, because this will again help us pitch what we're doing. Okay, so how familiar are you with the work of of Kishi. Right, okay, very interesting. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on this webinar. It's really great to have a whole very large group of people who are interested in new work, because only 20% of you consider yourself have a good or very good level of knowledge of Kishi's work. So perhaps we should just, well, first of all, have you got any comments so far about what we've said so far before we move on to the second half, or the final stage of the webinar? Maybe you just ask.
Yeah. I would also want to just mention Dr. Gregory, because he did a lot of work
yes,
with her at
late.
It was what you just said, Cliff. It's like she was always looking for ways to explain what she was finding in the treatment, and when what she had didn't fit, she went, okay, let's find another way. Yeah. Okay, let's see what's come on the chat.
Okay, what about you, Gabriella? Have you got any comments to make so far? Oh, you need to put your mic on. Let me just. You can just pop down to the lower part of the screen and turn the mic on.
What I really appreciated about Pauline was the coherence of her work. It was always, everything was always in harmony with all the rest. And that, I think it's a very rare quality, just to, not to go into different directions, but just to bring everything to the one, so that everything fits.
Yeah.
And yes, and I remember Dr. Gregory very well.
That was, I think the thing is, she was always interested in having a coherent system so she could explain anything that was happening, exactly like you said. Yeah, that's right. Okay, good. Let's see what we've got next on the slides. Yeah, okay, so we found out that actually 80% of you don't know that much about Kishi. So I'll just fill you in a little bit. Okay, so Pauline apprenticed with Kishi in Paris, and so she watched him work, and she was very closely watching, literally did an apprenticeship. If you're not familiar with Kishi was Masunaga's first disciple. He was the one that Masunaga thought would carry on Zen Shiatsu. He kind of split with Masunaga though, and he went through a sort of spiritual process closely related to Shintoism, and he developed his own style of Shiatsu, and then he kind of moved away from Shiatsu and developed Seiki. I first met him in 82 or 3, I think, when he did a workshop in Lam Rim, again, the same place that Pauline used to teach him back in the day. And at that time, he was actually working completely off the body. He would scan the whole body, go down to one point, and then go kind of like that. And so you can see where some of Pauline's work, working on the etheric field, where that came from. I would say, though, that Kishi did go back onto the body later on in his life, and he did do much more body work. In fact, he gave me a Shiatsu treatment on that Rome Congress that I did for the Italian. Yeah, that's the one by the seaside in Ostia. And he was definitely working on the body then. But that definitely would have given Pauline an experience of working with different types of touch. So that brings us to the subject of Hara palpation, okay? And here is Masunaga doing Hara palpation. He was renowned for having a very slow, very deep technique. When Pauline came to teach us in the early 80s, one of the most noticeable differences between her technique and videos, and some of us had seen Masunaga work himself, was the Hara palpation. So she would do the Hara palpation very quickly. It was very light in terms of the depth of penetration, and she would work round the whole Hara in a sequence and do the whole thing as one kind of sequence. Whereas if you saw Masunaga working, or you'd notice that he stayed much longer on each area, and it was much, much deeper, much more physically deep. Okay, so the other thing I always remember about Pauline when she did the Hara diagnosis was she emphasized not concentrating on the specific areas, but really doing the whole sequence as one sequence. keeping a steady rhythm, keeping the touch the same. And then what we were encouraged to do was to reflect back and interpret what happened by reflecting back and remembering the experience of the palpation as a whole, rather than assessing each area as we went into it. And that's a kind of a very different approach, and it leads you in a very different direction from assessing each of the areas individually. So I thought it might be fun for us to do some self-Hara Shiatsu and see if we can work out and figure out what the differences are. And then we can ask some questions about that. Okay, so let's I thought we'd do some practical. You can do this on your own, on yourself. You don't have to lie down, but I'm going to lie down because I've got a futon right here. I'm going to angle it down so you can see me. Yep, there we go. Great. Okay, so if I take this off, you'll see you should get a large picture of me. Yeah, there we go. All right. So yeah, I thought we could do some self-shiatsu and do a Hara diagnosis and see if we can get an idea of the difference. Okay, you ready? So if you can lie down, then you lie down. Otherwise, you can do it in a sitting position as well. It's just more realistic when we do it this way around. Okay. So get myself a pillow, make myself comfortable. Hope you're comfortable too. Okay, I'm kind of assuming that you know where the Masunaga Hara diagnosis areas are. If you don't, then you're just to follow through with me and do the best you can. Okay, ready? So let's try the Masunaga approach. We're going to use deep and slow pressure. We'll just go round the Hara once and see what we can pick up. And then we'll kind of shake out. We'll go back, we'll do a Hara diagnosis at the kind of speed that Pauline did it at, and we'll do the reflecting back thing, and we'll see what kind of different experience we have. You ready? Okay, so here we go, right? Zero in on my Hara a bit more. Okay, here we go. Ready? So let's palpate the heart area, and I'm going to just use the weight of the relaxed hand and press in nice and deeply in. Feel the heartbeat. Okay, and then we're going to go round stomach, which is here. Triple heater. I'm just going to turn some mics off here. Okay, great. Okay, triple heater. We got it nice and deep. Lung, which is right by the rib cage here, right at the edge of the rib cage, pressing in deeply into there until you can feel it really into the lungs. We're going to go back up to the gallbladder area, that's here. We're going to press in really deeply to see what you can feel. And then round again to liver. And then lung again. All right. And then we're going to go down. This is the navel, my navel, and heart protectors halfway down. Press in. Heart protector. Spleen around the navel, pressing in. Okay, and then kidney. It's just around the navel here, this area here. Again, I'm pressing in deeply and slowly. Bladder, which is around here, above the pubic bone. And we're going to press in deeply in there towards the bladder organ. Okay, and then large intestine. and small intestine. Okay, small intestine is towards the navel from the hip up this way. Okay, so that's a slow method, very much like Masunaga used to do. And you can see videos on YouTube doing that. Okay, so let's just shake out a little bit. I'm just going to get up, jump about, shake out my Hara, and come back again. Okay, just kind of shake out a bit. And now let's try palpating with a much lighter touch, and we're going to try and wait until we finish the palpation before we think back and just figure out what's happening, okay? So keep your hands nice and relaxed. Okay, I'm going to use 2 hands here as well, and I'm going to go around about the same speed that Pauline went. You want to weight the relaxed hand, so you want some physical contact. Okay, something like this. Okay, and the rhythm would be, the tempo, the rhythm would be something like this. So we go heart, stomach, gallbladder, triple heater, liver, lung, heart protector, spleen, kidney round the navel, bladder, yeah, large intestine, small intestine. Okay, do you want to do it one more time? Shake out. Here we go. Heart, stomach, gallbladder, triple heater, liver, lung, heart protector, spleen, kidney, bladder, large intestine, small intestine. Okay, so now let's just relax and think back to that palpation and see if you can remember any of the meridians that stand out in your memory. And you might just want to write those down, write down the experience that you had in terms of what you can remember and what it was like. And what we can do now, before we do anything else, is just go back and just check and see if what you remember actually happened. Okay, so it's a very different process. You can see how we use a process of reflection rather than assessing each local area individually. Okay. Excellent. So let's just have a look at the slides and we'll see what's next up. Okay, so we've experimented with the light and the deep Hara palpation, and we've got a few questions for you. First of all, which technique is most similar, just so we can get a reference to how you work, which technique is most similar to the way that you palpate the Hara? Do you tend to work the deep, slow technique, or do you use the fast, light technique, just to see, or neither, maybe you don't use Hara diagnosis? Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else like to contribute to the poll? That's very interesting. So about a third of you are using the Masunaga method, and about 60% are using, I guess, influenced by Pauline, using the fast and light technique.
Are you going to ask if anyone's doing etheric diagnosis, or are we getting on to that?
We could do, yeah, we could do that. I can just quickly do a poll. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Do you? Okay. I'm going to ask you. Do you use etheric diagnosis? And what that means is working off the body, like hovering above the body. Okay. I'm going to share that with you now. So does anyone use etheric diagnosis? In other words, tuning off above the body.
Oh, great.
Right, it's about half and half. It's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so actually, when I come to think of it, when I was apprenticing with Pauline in '86, she was only using etheric Hara palpation. So she was just going over the Hara and feeling the shapes of the vibration of the energy. I mean, that, in a way, that's a kind of logic to where that's where you go, isn't it? If you go lighter, you end up, you know, above the body. So, right, let's just have a quick look and see whether we've got any questions. Oh, we've got 7 questions. Whee, okay, here we go. Oh, some of it's technical stuff. Will the Demio link be the same for all reoccurring events? Yes, it will be, by the way. I'll answer this live, yeah. If just in case you're wondering, you will get the same link every week for these series of 5 webinars, yeah. Okay, Dinah, can we ask questions now? Yes, we can. Right, okay. Oh, look, here we are. Let's have a look. I'd like to share my experience with this exercise because it was different from what you said. Actually, when we turn left and right, I experienced heart and liver energy. And when I run, I experience kidney and lung, hence my difficulty to answer your poll. Okay, well, of course, all Pascal, that is. Well, of course, all the meridians are all connected. So you will obviously feel, you can feel any meridians with any of the expressions, obviously. And that's another integrated part of it, which we'll go on to later on. Angela remembers that she used to light up the meridians. Do you remember that? That was a really very big image. Absolutely, yeah. And we'll go on to more detail about how that works when we do the two-handed technique and we do the contraction and the expansion technique and the light meridian work, which will come later on into the webinars. Okay, and Elaine says, Elaine said, for me, Pauline's teaching explained what Kishi had done in that earlier workshop in London, and I think that's true as well. You know, that was the big thing about Pauline. She always wanted to explain what she was doing. So Karen says, I learned to assess the Hara off the body. Okay, very good. That's almost certainly comes from Pauline. Right, okay. Here we go. Okay, what do you think about repeating the Hara diagnosis 1 or 2 times after another? Not something to be encouraged, because the whole idea was to get. I'm sure I could just see Pauline right now going, no, decide, because it's all about deciding, you know, like what to do, you know, how to focus your energy.
And also, if you do it 2 or 3 times, you end up doing treatment.
You do, and that's one of the questions I was going to ask you about what might be the advantages and disadvantages. Okay, let's answer this question with from Simona. What should I pay attention to when palpating Pauline's way? It's not too clear for me. Okay, so basically what you do is you go around the Hara palpation, which is basically almost like a scan, actually, like scanning around. And what you're doing is you're looking for anything that strikes you, that comes out at you, and then you'd go back and assess them. Initially, what Pauline was doing was she was assessing Kyo and Jitsu. So she would assess it with Kyo and Jitsu. Later that changed, as we'll find out in the next few Tuesdays. It changed to assessing the meridians in themselves, the energetic structure. One of the analogies I use is if you wanted to feel the difference between, say, my arm and my t-shirt here, it would be quicker to do this and find where the join is than it would be to spend a long time going like this. And that's how the faster Hara works. You scan over the Hara, you feel where it's different, and then you go back and figure out what's happening. So I hope that's where can we find the video? I suppose you mean the video of this. There will be a link to the recording after the webinar. And Michael says, does anyone palpate the back instead of the front? Yes, we do. In fact, but in actual fact, Masunaga tended to emphasize visual diagnosis. And we did a lot of that with Pauline, didn't we? Back in the 80s and 90s, visual diagnosis of the back, you know. So yeah, we do that. But the Hara is the primary method. Right, okay. here we go. So now I'm going to just finish up because we've got about 5 seconds left. We've done the questions. And this is a review. I've introduced the presenters. We introduced Pauline's work. We reviewed the core aspects of the Masunaga system. We did the practical expressions with the meridians. We looked at Pauline's influence from Kishi, and we experimented with the Hara. So it's been a fun-packed hour. It's just flown past in so quickly. And we're going to leave you with a question. How about this? We're going to leave you with a question. Why do you think that Pauline developed a faster and lighter Hara palpation? And we'd like you to think about that for the next week. Maybe experiment if you're doing some clients, and try and figure out, why do you think she developed it? What was the method she did? And next week for you, we've got the contraction and expansion. We've got alignment, peripheral vision, modeling and mindset, the two-handed technique, and going beyond Kyo and Jitsu. So make sure you tune in next week at the same time. Thank you so much, Gabriella. Thank you so much, Nicola. It's been so much fun. Really enjoyed it. And thank you so much. We had over 250 people tuning in. That's absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for being part of it.
Thanks, Dinah. Yes.
Thank you, Dinah, for working away.
Next time
helping us
we
with
want
the chat
you on
all the way through the way.
with us.
Yeah, we're going to get you on a video link next week, Dinah, so that we can see you. Okay, sadly, I've got to end the session. We're 1 minute over.
See you next Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.